Hello, friends. Welcome to the Ancient Health Podcast, where East meets West. I'm your host, Dr. Chris Motley, and I have a very special friend here with me. And Carrie Bennett and I met in Hawaii. She was the head speaker at a conference that our friend Jory put out in Maui. And that was the first time I got to meet Carrie. And I will tell you, I was intrigued by the amount of information that Carrie knew about light and how it affects your cells, water, and women's health. I mean, there's many things she talks about, but it was just very intriguing to me. So it's like old friends meeting up. And I just want to say thank you, Carrie, for coming on. You're one of my first people I wanted to get back on the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Motley. Same. It was such an honor meeting you there. And I just loved sharing information with people who get it, right? It's just, you get to nerd out together. And so I always love chatting with you, whether it's on a podcast or behind the scenes. It's just so much fun.
Oh, I want you to know this too. I want everybody out there listening to know that we'll go in sections with you, Carrie, if that's okay. If you ever would like to come back on here, because there's a lot of information when we talk about mitochondria, energy production, hormones. So I know many people out there will take notes or they'll listen to, but remember, everyone, we'll go through this and we'll have Carrie back on and we can go over things and you can send us some comments and we'll make sure that we answer them. So just remember, like and subscribe and send us comments if you want. But Carrie has a really great social page. So Carrie has the Carrie B Wellness, and it talks about quantum biology. It talks about the quanta. It talks about energy and light. So first, before we dig in, I know people out there are going to say, what in the world's quantum biology? And I'm intrigued. But I want to ask first, let's hear about you, your personal health story. We want to also know about what intrigued you to go into this realm of quantum biology.
Yeah, sure. So I think my story is kind of similar to other people who have been on healing journeys. About 13 years ago, I'm going to go back a little further. I mean, when I was a college athlete, I had some joint pain, some insomnia, digestive issues, but, I kind of just mustered up enough strength to get through that, no big deal. But after my first child was born 13 years ago, I just didn't feel like myself. And, I started developing debilitating fatigue, Motley, the kind of fatigue where you could take a nap at any time, or I likened it to being in a dark movie theater with a very boring movie. And I wanted to just close my eyes at any time. And yet I had insomnia. So I couldn't sleep, but I was exhausted. And because of that, my digestion went awry. My joints were aching. I couldn't recover from any workout. And I had a lot of tools in my toolbox at that time, right? So I understood exercise very well because I was a certified personal trainer, fitness instructor. I went to massage therapy school, so I had that background as well. I had an undergraduate degree in human biology. I had a graduate degree in clinical nutrition, and none of it moved the needle. Right? I tried to lay out what I considered a good quality protocol to support my body. And so I just thought to myself, people were like, well, you're a mom now. That's as good as it's going to get. And I just was like, no, I deep down knew I was missing a huge piece of the puzzle. And that's when I came across in a blog article, the words circadian rhythm. And I was hooked. I'm like, what is this? And so and then I went down the rabbit hole, right? All the researchers, so everything about circadian rhythm I could get my hands on. And it turns out that my light and the light that I'm exposing my body and my eyes to literally plays a fundamental role in how my body operates. And I was not paying any attention to my light environment for decades. I'd wake up early, go to the gym to open it up for a boot camp class, be under fluorescent lights all day, come home. My husband was working second shift, so we would watch a movie together at night. None of it. I just thought that the only thing that mattered about light was, could I see my environment or not? and it turns out there's so much more to the story than that. And when I started to implement just a couple of key strategies involving what I call syncing my circadian rhythm, it moved the needle more in 3 days than it had in years and years of me trying all these other things.
Wow. And so you got on this track where you're saying actually following the rhythms of your biology, literally, and it's basically listening to your body and following certain patterns. When we're talking about circadian rhythms, and I'm not trying to jump ahead too far, but is that where, for instance, when you realized that light was affecting your body at certain times of day, is that one area and arena where you're like, okay, at this time of day, I need to make sure I'm getting exposed to this light or I'm resisting this type of light. Is that how it works? And can you explain a little bit about that too?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's exactly how it works. So it turns out that light is information. And it's beautiful, right? Because we've been designed to essentially sync up with a period ever since all throughout creation. There's been a period of daytime and a period of darkness, right? And so, and this changing daytime. And so in the very basic sense, it's not as bright in the morning as it is in the afternoon where the sun's at the high point in the sky. And then, it gets dimmer and then darkness. And so it made sense for all of creation to say, well, I don't want to optimize digestion while Carrie is sleeping because the likelihood of her finding, hunting, gathering food and needing to digest it would be slim to none. Why don't we say nighttime is repair time? Why don't we say then that the start of the day, Carrie needs more energy so that she can get rolling and she could do all of the things she needs to do to survive. And so that's the very basic thing of it. And there's a ton of beautiful science that we could dive into. But essentially, the changing wavelengths or colors of light from sunrise to solar noon, where the sun's at the high point in the sky, back to sunset, and then a period of darkness, signal time to my brain. And that gets communicated to every cell in my body to optimize hormones, energy, organ function, you name it.
Wow. So for people out there listening, that would mean that particularly like in the morning, like you should pay attention to what type of light hits you. So let's say somebody gets up in the morning and like a good routine. Because I know people out there like, well, what should I do right when I get up? Should they do something with natural light? Like even if they look on their phone, like the first thing like most of us do is look at our phone. Is there like a pattern that you say this is like a first step when you wake up?
Yeah. So looking at the phone is one of the things that I was doing every morning that was really confusing my circadian rhythm because the light, to understand this, we're going to talk about blue light, Motley, because people have heard blue light coming from phone screens, right? Or screens. Yep. And what you need to know is that blue light comes from the sun. We've all seen sunlight split through a prism or a rainbow, and there's a chunk of it that's blue, and it's balanced with all the other colors of the rainbow, but it's not static. The amount of blue light is very low in the morning and builds and builds and builds until it has its high point at solar noon, and then it slowly starts to go away until it disappears. There's no blue light in campfire. And so it disappears at darkness. And so these screens, unfortunately, are a bright shock of blue, a very dominant blue light. The only time in nature when blue would be the dominant color coming from sunlight is when the sun's at the high point in the sky in the middle of the afternoon. So every morning I was waking up just to see what time it was, maybe check my emails. Back then, 13 years ago, I didn't have social media. I was just, doing the basics. Like I thought emails and check what time it is. And that bright blue was essentially telling my brain, well, I know you just woke up, but it's actually 2:00 in the afternoon or 11 o'clock in the morning, like a late, right? So essentially I skipped all of my morning signals that my body needed to get to kind of optimize, say, digestion or energy. And instead I was just jumping straight into the middle of the afternoon. In other words, it's a confused timing. And then all day long, underneath these artificial lights, confusing timing. And so there are things we can do. Number one, I would say if you do have to look at a screen first thing in the morning, I always do it through orange toned lenses, right? And I know I've seen you wear these before. I know you have them.
I do. Keep going. Yes.
I know you have them. And so essentially, I'm not saying you have to live in a cave, right? But what I am saying is the orange wavelet, the orange color here blocks the blue from entering the eyes. And it's through the eyes. The eyes have a direct connection to the clock in the brain. So there's little blue light sensors in the backs of my eyes that are literally connected to this portion of my brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. That chunk in my brain is communicating timing. And it's designed to be like little bit of blue light in the morning, little more, lots, less, none. And instead, I was going into none, lots, right? Very confusing. And so if I can instead prevent those blue wavelengths of light from signaling timing a start of the day, especially if it's before sunrise. So ideally, if it's before sunrise, we have these orange tone lenses on. Not doing a ton on social media because I don't necessarily think it's the best way to start our day. But if you need to look at your phone, go ahead and do your little phone tasks through these lenses. And you just wear the orange tone lenses until light appears outside. And so this is me in the morning, getting kids ready for school, lunches, all the things. And then as soon as the sun comes out, and it doesn't have to be sunny, because I'm going to get that too. It could be cloudy, foggy, rainy, snowy. The light is the same. The changes of light are the same. I take these off, and heck, I take these off as well, right? I take these ones off, and I just go outside and tell my brain it's morning. And how cool is it that my eyes can say, oh yeah, there's blue light, and it's increasing, and it's this amount in intensity. So it's morning. And
wow. This is amazing. Keep going. Because like when you get up in the morning, okay, and like you put on the orange light, and by the way, we'll go over some like who like the best glasses you like, and people are going to ask that. And when you put your lights on and you are looking at your screen, okay, so I know we're going to get into this, so I'm not trying to jump ahead. But like you talk about circadian rhythm, and we've talked about like, in Chinese medicine, they always talk about like a circadian or an Ori cycle. And so that made me think that if I jumped ahead and made my body believe it was 2 o'clock, like, would it screw up your natural electrical patterns? Because in Chinese medicine, in the morning, you're supposed to like energize your colon to poop,
right,
and your stomach to get ready for the morning meal.
Yes.
But then you're shooting up to 2 o'clock, and that's sort of like the small intestine time where it's like you're supposed to be processing your food. So it kind of screws it up that way?
Yes, it does. It absolutely does. Because that communication essentially signals to the mitochondria in each organ which ones need to make more energy, right? And so it's like, right, it's like adrenal glands, time to pump out the cortisol. Stomach, digest, pancreas, get ready, right? And so it's there's a complete overlap between that TCM organ cycle, but through the language of quantum biology, it's just the light is communicating to the mitochondria time of day, and the mitochondria then say, oh, now is our turn to fire more energy.
Well, so essentially you're saying you're confusing your organs, certain organs, to produce more energy when they don't need to because it's not the right time of day to do it.
Exactly. Which is why my main symptoms, and I see this all the time, had to do with fatigue. My adrenal glands weren't getting the correct stimulation to make cortisol, and digestive issues, because I was skipping over all of that stuff, right, to prep my digestive tract. So I couldn't digest anything. Like, it wasn't just a specific food sensitivity. It was like, I couldn't digest anything. And so I mean, doesn't that make sense, right? When we
It totally makes sense. Like if you're shooting ahead, like, and people are like listening to this and they're like, well, I definitely do that. I need to get some glasses. But like, again, there's so many things we want to go to. I just want to make sure I'm going to like really, very easy for people out there listening. But if you get up in the morning and you realize like I got the sunlight coming in, and you could screw up your digestion. So if you go into the afternoon or evening time of day, could you, looking at the wrong light, can screw up some of your reproductive system? You know what I mean? Like your circadian rhythm, like your periods,
yes.
in the cycles?
Well, yeah. And so the way that this works is that in the morning specifically, we're designed to, as soon as the day starts, we're designed to make a natural surge of cortisol. I think people have heard that, right? So this cortisol is made in our adrenal glands, and it basically gets into our bloodstream. It's the blood chemical signal of morning, right? That the day has started. So cortisol elevates in the blood. The body senses that. I think there's a resonance effect, but also an actual biochemical effect on that. And the body knows it's morning. But cortisol is a steroid hormone, and cortisol is part of what we would call the steroid hormone cascade. So when I said the mitochondria kind of rev up energy, they do, but the mitochondria in the adrenal glands and in the reproductive organs, as soon as they get that signal at the start of the day, the mitochondria make pregnenolone. And for people who don't know, pregnenolone is the start of the steroid hormone cascade. So mitochondria make that pregnenolone with that morning light signal. And then the body says, what time of the month is it? Or what time of the lunar cycle is it? How much stress is Carrie under? How much, stored energy does she have? Let's then divide a certain amount of that pregnenolone into cortisol for that natural surge in the morning, and ferry the rest of it into the hormones of fertility. And I was missing out on that as well.
You're missing out on that whole process because the stimulation to the cells in your mitochondria. So if the accumulation, I love how you talked about the suprachiasmatic area of the brain. So, okay, one question may be that if you've done this repeatedly, and we've done it, I've done it, and I'm not saying I'm above it, but like when you saw results in 3 days.
Yes.
Is there, it shows how quickly you can actually affect your neurology if you do the right things through your eye socket. and I hope I'm not screwing or butchering this question, but it shows the quickness of it. So light hitting the eyes is probably one of the quickest ways to like make a change in your body.
Yes, it is, because every cell has what are called clock genes, needing to know what time it is. So when should these proteins be made or these molecules be made? Or when should we actually turn on the repair programs? All of that is dependent on the correct light signaling or darkness signaling. And so that's why if we sync it back up, the body's like, oh, I know what to do. This protein needs to fire. Now these hormones, now this repair program needs to be run. And so I'm not alone. I've now been blessed to have been able to work now with hundreds, if not thousands of people who say the same thing within days, if not a week. They notice a significant change and shift happening in something: energy, sleep, digestion, hormones, you name it, because of how quickly you're just giving the body missing information. I just was giving it chaotic information. Right. And then I gave it the right information and it knows what to do. Right. What if the body was that intelligent? Right. It is that intelligent.
Because like it would just say, like, when we work with the patients and clients, and many people out there listening, it's like you could get a whole bunch of a certain number of supplements and a certain amount, and you're thinking, well, I'm taking all the right things, but now you're saying that you could be taking quite a bit, but if you're missing information and your cells can't possibly like metabolize some of the nutrients you are asking it to, if you're not even telling your cells it's the right time of day.
Right.
And wow.
Well, this is even pharmaceutical research is getting this in terms of they never studied when to give medications, for example, and so now they're recognizing that, wow, this medication is so much more effective if we give it at this time of day than if we give it at this time of the day. And, I can connect those dots and say, oh, this is why. Right. But you may be giving your body some beautiful supports. But if it's missing the time of day and missing repair, that's another key thing to talk about is repair at night. I was not running any of my repair programs. So my gut lining was never able. We should be we're designed to regenerate a new gut lining in 2 to 5 days, max, because of how many insults the gut lining receives. That makes sense. Like, it should have a high turnover rate. I wasn't signaling it because the signal to regenerate the gut lining is darkness. And I was scrolling on my phone at night or watching a movie with my husband or newborn. So I had like lights on in the room because I wanted to be able to see if he was breathing, all those things. And so again, it's as simple as creating the correct darkness signaling at night, and then you start to repair.
I mean, it's blowing my mind. Okay, so if you are getting the correct signals, and when you have that pattern, okay, so blue light's the highest in the middle of the day, it starts to go down. You start to get the right information. Is that what people are talking, like sun gazing? Like some people say there's a thing about sun gazing, not trying to change course, but is there some efficacy on that? Like somebody's like, okay, Carrie, I want to start following the pattern using the glasses and lenses, but do you say like, I got to go put my face in the sun, or what would be like something like during the middle of the day to get you back on track?
It's a great question. So what I am going to tell you clinically, and there is some research showing this as well, but clinically getting more morning light is important because essentially the body is designed to, from what I'm seeing clinically, the body is designed to kind of run a set of programs in the morning. And when that gets kicked off, the rest of the day can kind of do its thing, right? Like I'll do light breaks and check-ins and I can talk about what that is. And then the next signal to give the body is darkness. And so I say, there's apps like my friend and colleague, Sarah Kleiner, has an app called the My Circadian app where you could essentially put your city in and see, okay, this is sunrise. So I tell clients near sunrise or, and again, consistency over perfection. I'm not a fan of, right. Yep. But so go outside, get that natural light signaling for 3 minutes. Because the brain just needs to know light is increasing in blue. The amount and intensity is increasing, and it can calculate the time of day. And then there's another window of time. The body's keying in on transition. So that's when blue light starts to appear, right? Oh yeah, there's blue. Okay. The next transition in the morning is about an hour after sunrise, give or take. That's when ultraviolet light appears. again, that appearance, that's a very strong wavelength of light that we've been taught to fear. But actually, that wavelength we know is strong enough to help our body, through the eyes again, convert tryptophan into serotonin, phenylalanine into dopamine, like all these important brain chemicals. So I tell people, get another hit of time outside around like 1 hour after sunrise. So just do these little check-ins and try to accumulate as much time as you can. Ideally, what works the most for most people is getting in that morning chunk of time, let's say from sunrise till 2 hours later, getting at least about 45 minutes can be split up, right? As many days as you can. It might be 3 days a week, and then you do these little check-ins. But so just do the best that you can, because as we talked about before, the body will get on track. The body will say, oh, I get it. It's not like we have to be under natural light all day long to know what time it is. We can kind of set, it's like a metronome that kind of gets off track, and then you give it a little boost and it gets back on track and in sync. It might take a little while to get off track again. We're the same way. We just need those little hits to resync it. But the morning chunk of time is by far the most impactful amount of time to get outside to see what the benefits that I'm talking about.
Totally, Carrie. Like, so that wouldn't possibly explain, like you just said, like if the blue light at certain times of day can stimulate your body to create serotonin, which is a happy chemical. Is that why, like, some people get out in the sun and they go, man, when I'm out in the sun, I just super feel happy. Like, I feel really like this is where I need to be. And then they go into their office space and they're underneath an artificial light and they're like, I don't feel happy at all. So is that like, it's a mood changer, right? Like 100%. If your light becomes a mood changer.
100%. So those ultraviolet wavelengths, especially in the morning, like I talked about, they'll help to balance serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine, right? So focused, energized, excited to be a part of our day, and beta endorphin. Beta endorphin is a natural runner's high chemical, right? And so we're designed to be energized and stimulated and love being in sunlight or natural light because of those effects. And that ultraviolet light is missing in our indoor environments. And instead it's dominated by kind of like zombie land, just static blue light, where the body's just kind of like, what time of day is it?
So that's like explains why people could be completely depressed if they are always inside their office space, always looking at a computer screen. And I've heard some reports, like some individuals, when they live in a city where there's like high rises, and well, there's a higher rate of depression in those, right? Because it's the light.
Well, right, because you're not getting any of even brightness stimulation through your windows, because the light is being blocked by other buildings. And here's another thing about that serotonin. Most people don't realize that's a bowel motility stimulant. So we're designed to kind of get the digestive tract rolling, probably have a meal within that breakfast window of time. Then that ultraviolet light appears maybe an hour to 2 hours after sunrise. Serotonin is made in the gut. That's a bowel motility stimulant. So it'll help facilitate that bowel movement then.
So you'd have to definitely, you have to go get light that would stimulate that. It has to have some kind of relationship, like you're saying, with the biotics, the bacteria in your gut. They must be feeding off of it to help you actually poop in the morning.
Well, they change throughout the course of a 24-hour clock as well. So your microbiome will change after food, but it changes both on a circadian basis, like a daily basis throughout the time, depending on the time of day, but also a seasonal basis. Because when it doesn't make sense, now it's more likely. So it's the middle of harvest season. My brain can tell that based on the light, and the gut microbiome anticipates more fiber or fructose or, what could be possibly grown and harvested, as opposed to first thing in the spring, it'd be more likely to say, there's going to be some microgreens and some asparagus. So it can interpret that for us because of the light that's entering our eyes.
I mean, we could totally nerd out even more. And I know, like, this is like, I definitely do want to go down that route about biotics and how they would know during the season, because I'm really big about like eating for your season and such. So, but before this escapes my thoughts, when you had ultraviolet light come in, so you guys are getting up in the morning, learning how to, like, you try to just repetition, get up there, get that light in.
Naked eyes, right? So no sunglasses. No
sunglasses, let it hit you. So when ultraviolet light hits, though, too, I think I know I've read some of your work about how ultraviolet light also stimulates your cells, and I guess the type of water in your cells to actually help with like cleaning up your body. Like it can kill infections or something. Like it has to be something like it's a cleanup.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh gosh. Yeah. This is a fun one. So let me just recap what you were saying, because with the recommendations for the light exposure, so people get that, right? Yes. Go outside as much as you can, consistency over perfection, naked eyes. You do not have to stare directly at the sun, although there is some historical use of sun gazing, right? So feel free to dive down that rabbit hole if you want to. But you can just be, outside. So I tell people, schedule a phone call for work, go for a walk, do something where you're outside and your eyes will receive that light signal. Now, the reason why I think that, understanding light led me to water. And you and I were just talking about how I got to speak at the water conference, Dr. Gerald Pollack's water conference. So water is just it's such a fun topic for me to talk about, because our bodies are full of water. Essentially, by molecular count, if I were to line up every molecule in the body, I would line up 99 water molecules for every one other molecule of protein, hormone. So packed, we're full of water. Okay, we're full of it. And that water has always been thought to be inert. Like, it's there, it's in the cell. Yeah, we need it because being dehydrated is harmful, but it doesn't do anything. And Dr. Gerald Pollack's work, along with some amazing additional water researchers, have shown that water inside of our bodies actually acts as a source of energy for us. And so it structures itself into a gel. It's not a liquid. So for those of you who are watching on video, I always thought that water would be liquid water, right? Swirling around in a glass. It's not. It takes on a gelled structure. So that's maybe where people have heard the term structured water. And when it takes on that gelled structure, it transforms from being neutral. So liquid water doesn't have a pH of acidic or basic, or doesn't have any charge to it. It's neutral. When water's in that structured state inside of our cells, it's negatively charged. And it's been known forever. Like this, go to any medical textbook. The interior of the cell needs to be alkaline or negatively charged. Those are synonymous. And when we have the appropriate charge or voltage or membrane potential, these are all synonymous words, then that cell stays healthy. Essentially, it has enough energy. But for forever, research invoked the idea of pumps and channels, sodium, potassium pumps, right? It's fine, but they never took into consideration that the water itself could be a contributing factor to this healthy negative charge inside of the cells. And so here's where light comes into play, because Dr. Pollack found that when we expose this gelled water to infrared light, and the sun always contains at least 40 to 50% of its spectrum from infrared light, in the infrared range. It expands this gelled water. It charges this gelled water. It's essentially, how we plug in a cell phone charger and plug it into the wall to charge that battery. Infrared light is doing that for the negative charge inside of our cells.
My word. This is amazing.
But unfortunately, modern lighting, we would have been lit by campfire. And after campfire, the next iteration was incandescent bulbs. Those had infrared. Nowadays, our modern light bulbs took out the infrared. So we don't have any infrared, and modern window glass blocks it. It's the energy efficiency regulations to make our buildings energy efficient, but humans are now becoming energy deficient because of that. And so we need to understand that we literally can get that infrared light into our bodies and charge this battery of energy. The way that you were talking about as a detoxifier, because it takes on this gelled structure, what Dr. Pollack found, he actually coined this water exclusion zone, easy for short, but this exclusion zone, he called it an exclusion zone because when it forms, it doesn't let anything bigger than an electron or light or sound penetrate it. So what that means is it excludes things. So let's say it's forming. So it forms next to all the biological surfaces in our cells. Naturally, it'll form, and it needs infrared light to be maintained. Picture a cell that has adequate exclusion zone water. Toxins can't penetrate it. Pathogens can't penetrate it. Right? It becomes this barrier or this force field where things can't get in unless the things that the cell wants, it can recognize, like minerals, like nutrients. The cell can undergo a quick water phase transition to allow those things to get in. Now, then picture a cell that's unfortunately been deficient in this exclusion zone water. So now things have gotten in. We got intracellular pathogens, we got intracellular toxins. We charge it back up and build that exclusion zone water. It starts to push the toxins into the lymphatic fluid outside of the cell to be drained by the body. And a cell that's why I say, like, if you have adequate charge, not only is there a physical barrier from allowing those pathogens into the actual cellular space itself, but the voltage in it, the charge, the negative charge, makes it inhospitable to things like parasites and other infections from wanting to live in that high voltage environment. And so it's, and that's it, right? It's getting that sunlight. This is where you do want to get that infrared light on the skin, but there's other means. And cultures have known this for a long time, right? That's the reason why sweat lodges are a thing. It's the reason why saunas are a thing. It's the reason why campfire was utilized. I mean, campfire, it has that benefit because we'll draw the infrared from it and maintain it in low light environments, let's say in the far northern latitudes. And so we've just not been aware of these things. And so now I hope more and more people are becoming aware of this so we can start to implement these strategies and just regain the health that we're designed to have 24/7.
And I think it gives us hope that individuals out there that are listening have like a chronic infection or chronic disease. And I'm thankful for that information because I have a laser that does a laser. They have the laser light that has red light, red laser, and has ultraviolet. And the cool thing is, guys, like patients get some of the best results. Like I know you know this, Carrie, but like somebody comes in and say, "Doc, I've got chronic sinus infections. I got throat congestion, got chronic kidney infections that doesn't go away." And I'm just thankful for this information because I would, I'm doing some biofeedback, some kinesiology, but I'd find like this certain red light, like the wavelength and the strength of it, those individuals to say like, whatever that red light did, I drained, like you just said, like I was wondering, because that's the explanation, it pushed in the lymph node. And they're like, is it supposed to do that? Like I'm having different poops. I'm having sweat. I stink. And that's why infrared saunas would be so good for people because it's changing the actual structure of the wall to make it push things out. That's amazing.
It is. So, I tell people though, some people have to go slow because I do have people who they'll start to use a little bit of sauna or a little bit of sunlight exposure. And if you're going to do this and you feel like you've had an intracellular infection or toxicity for quite some time, open your drainage pathways as best as you can so that you give, as the cells push out those toxins, you give them an out route. You don't let them just linger around the cell and allow the immune system to kind of activate aggressively. And that's what causes the symptoms that we see with that.
Oh, so you're actually helping it out. So if you do that and you're actually aiding the body do that with these different therapies, that makes complete total sense. Yeah. So when you're using a light source, and I love how you talk about, with water. One more thing though, everybody out there, I just think it's amazing that you said that now they're putting regulations on windows and you can't get certain light in. And now you're seeing people that are in these shells of homes that you can't get the proper light in. Now I got to go back to that. I'm just saying somebody's going to listen and do this. They're going to say, all right, Carrie, what do I do to my windows, or can you do anything to your windows? Yeah,
totally. Quartz crystal. You have to have in key positions in your house. You have to figure out how to put a small quartz window in because quartz is the only glass that allows all the wavelength through. It's why the company Analemma uses quartz for their structuring wands to pass the frequency information through. So if you could, again, I'd love to, if someone is hearing this and has access to it, I'd love it if we need it, like, let's say a key window in this room, a tiny one, right? Because it's not, light behaves like water. It behaves like a wave. And so you don't need it directly beaming into the whole entire space to send the light in. You just need it in key positions and then it fills the space. It's why a flashlight, it might illuminate things better when you shine the flashlight directly on something, but I could also look over here and be like, oh, there's my lost shoe, right? Like I'll still see in the space around me because I don't have to point that little beam everywhere I need in order to see. Light behaves like a wave. And so it'll spread out. And so key areas of the house. In my car, listen, I'm in Michigan. We were just talking about this. It's snowing. I almost always, unless it's pouring rain, I have my sunroof open because I know I can let that light in. I crack the windows. I let the light in. So what you have to do then is understand that the modern glass is blocking a lot of the frequencies that we need. Let's open the windows and you will start to notice a difference in terms, like if I use my little light meter called a spectrometer to read it, you'll see an increase in the light, a change in the light when you just crack a window open.
Oh my goodness. And I mean, again, we can go down the rabbit trail. We will have future ones about this. Like, so for instance, like somebody could ask that, like, if you have the light naturally coming in through the window, like if you have children and they need a proper amount of light to actually help their mood, or this is a little bit, going further down the rabbit trail, but I mean, I'm just thinking seriously, like you got your food in a refrigerator, it's dark, and do foods, I mean, like, do they get affected by light? I'm not trying to sound, crazy out, but like with the analemma, like, can you use something like that to put in near your food or something to like make sure that it's getting charged properly because of light sources, or am I?
Well, no, you are a food. There's a more subtle quality of light that is outside of the visible spectrum. I would call it life force energy, or chi, or prana. It's been given 97 different names, literally. And you can use. There's various devices that have been created to harness that. You can get really good quality structured water and soak let's say your grapes in this structured water, and you'll increase the amount of that high quality vitality in that produce.
Okay. So we're going to have questions. I know on the show notes, we'll have like all your notes there. So we go, okay. So with this though, I want to switch over to, like, you always talk about beautifully about water. And when we talk about water quality, could you touch base? Even I want to know, because there are so many different types of campaigns that tell us that you should have this type of water for your cells, and what is the best type of water? Like, any type of water is your favorite, or what do you recommend?
Well, tap water is inherently going to be toxic typically because it's full of chemicals, right? You'll have, anyway, I think people are aware. Tap water typically is full of the stuff that you'll find from pharmaceuticals to fluoride to endocrine disruptors, right? It's not necessarily an ideal drinking source. So I say step one, you always have to filter your water. But I know a lot of people say just distilled or just RO is enough, which those are two very good quality filters, right? Distillers or reverse osmosis. It will clear all the garbage from the tap water. It'll also, though, and this is where you're going to have to buy into what I'm talking about, it will strip the minerals, right? The good quality minerals, but it also zaps, like we were talking about, that life force energy from the water. And this is the water researcher who's studied this extensively, is Konstantin Karatkov. I got to meet him again at the water conference. He's a brilliant human being. And he's figured out how to essentially visualize it. He's created something called a GDV camera, gas discharge visualization. So he could take a photograph of a water droplet, and essentially you can take it and then you could image it, and you'll see almost like a plasma around it. In the same way we have these plasma biofields around us, he can measure that as well, but we're talking water here.
What?
So you see this plasma around it, and you'll see a drop of distilled water has a tiny, tiny plasma. A drop of reverse osmosis has a tiny, tiny plasma. If you take that same water where that distilled water came from, or that reverse osmosis came from, and then you structure it, say with the analemma wand, or there's some beautiful devices. You could use quartz crystals. I mean, there's so many beautiful things you can use, and then do another visualization, that plasma just grows.
Wow.
And that does translate to life force energy, because he's looked at conventional produce, very little, like full of glyphosate, very little plasma around it. Organic produce, massive amount of it. And you could see then shifts and changes in various blood parameters when people consume more vital or more foods or water with life force energy. Like, there was this beautiful study that was literally 43 months long, and all they changed was changing and drinking high quality structured water with this life force energy in it. It changed their their resting heart rate, their blood pressure, their VO2 max. It changed body fat measurements. It changed sleep. I mean, like, it checked. I mean, so obviously there's something about the body needing adequate amounts of this version of energy to retain health or to become even healthier. And so this water, while we can drink distilled water, we can drink reverse osmosis, I find it's not the most hydrating water, not the most energizing water for the body to have. And instead, I always say filter it and then do something to structure it. Remineralize it if you can. Some people really need minerals in their water, which could be like trace ocean minerals or something along those lines. Some people don't. Mm-hmm. But the beautiful thing is, it doesn't necessarily take a device, because his work, as has the work of another researcher, Dean Radin, has shown that simply praying over that water or having healing intention towards that water literally takes that same water droplet from having a very small energy aura to massive. And so That's why I think
Wow.
it's really important to be just aware of these things, because we can literally start to re-engage with prayer and gratitude before our meals and before drinking our water, and it can make a huge difference in that life force energy.
So it changes the actual plasma membrane basically around the water when you're doing a
Plasma
thankfulness or
aura,
gratitude.
exactly. Yep.
I mean, okay, this is great. So I know I got to make sure I get out some more things in. So you have the structured water, and I know you have great info. So we're going to ask if you could like to, you know, have information you could give to us so we
Sure.
promote your stuff on Instagram, because you have like lists of things like, you know, different water structures and
My product
filtering
guide.
devices
Yep.
and such.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what people are going to ask, and I'm like, yes, we'll have that. Carrie's information will be there. So we see that water can be structured, it can change, and I think like you say, the intentionality, like a prayer can make changes in water molecules. Is that like there's like a Japanese
Masaru Emoto.
yes, and he was
Yes.
like saying that I guess music and intentionality could change structured water, right? And make
Right,
it have a
exactly. So
shape?
what he did was a version of visualizing water that was called crystallography, where he would take water and freeze it. And then water, when it's in its very energized vital state, will form hexagonal arrangements, like beautiful snowflakes. And so he could show before and afters of when you would say the words like, I hate you to the water, it would form this amorphous blob. Or versus when you say, I love you to the water, it would form this beautiful crystal. Veda Austin is really the modern version of continuing Masaru's work. She's the one who basically shows the same thing. Water could be responsive. It's an antenna. And so I get people interested in water through the water that they drink, but then I want them to realize if the water in the glass is responsive to my thoughts and my prayers and what about the 99 out of every 100 molecules in my body? Right? And that's true as well. And so this is where Dr. Karatkoff has partnered with people like Joe Dispenza to show differences in people's biofield energy, their own plasma, life force energy, before and after things like meditation or prayer or healing intention sessions.
Yes.
And so you'll definitely see an increase in that vitality, that vital energy as visualized through those things. And so it's completely Motley, this has completely reframed my decisions on what I read. You know, what I want to read these days, the movies I want to watch, the news that I want to consume,
Yes.
you know, the people I want to hang out with. Like it's been a natural sorting, if you will. I don't feel like, oh man, I can't watch that movie anymore. It's like, I just don't really want to. Like, I just don't have that desire. And so it really, I think, can open people up to this understanding of how important it is for us and how much power we have if we pay attention to things like our words, our thoughts, what we have around us, who we have around us.
That is, I mean, to me, it's like you're drinking clean water, but you're right. Like it's also making sure that you have the right type of people around you and the right thought processes, or if you're in a negative environment, that could change the water structure in your body. So is that like why an individual may be around people who are negative and all of a sudden they're like, why am I so negative? Like I'm actually acting like these people, like, or acting like that. So it showing through your research and through the information you present that you can have a really healthy boost. I mean, literally just by how you think. And we talked about light and water, and there's so much more that we can talk about. But I think one area is that if you are in an environment where you don't feel like there's healthy people around you, and you can't change it, and you take the proper steps like you talked about, do you find, like, especially I want to go into the women's realm. I mean, when you're around like negativity, does that change like hormonal structures, cellular structures in women, like, and change their cycles and such?
Yeah, it absolutely can. And the research is still, up in the air in terms of what the actual mechanism of action is. But there actually is I'm going to connect a dot here. And again, Motley, I hope I can do I hope I can do this in the amount of time we have. But
I know. I'm sorry, but we'll have more time later, another time. But I love this.
So yes, we drink water, right? But inside of our bodies, we have little water makers for us. Most people don't realize that the mitochondria make water inside of our cells. Everyone thinks they make ATP. Yes, they make ATP. It's not, in my opinion, the most important molecule that they make. The most important molecule they make is that water that then can become this exclusion zone water, this healthy negative charge inside the cells. But the mitochondria, this is Martin Picard's research, the mitochondria are very responsive to psychological stress and our social environments. So they can either increase or decrease their energy output, which would be their water production and their ATP production, based on if they go to bed angry and stressed versus if they go to bed having laughed. If they wake up in the morning and they do something that brings joy and gratitude first thing in the morning versus if they wake up first thing in the morning and they think about their to-do list. And so again, a simple thing, right? And my goal is, I'm a clinician, right? I'm not a researcher. My goal as a clinician is to find these nuggets of research and then implement them into actionable strategies that people can use. And so that's why I said earlier, I don't recommend cell phone being the first thing we do when we wake up in the morning, because I'd like people just to take a moment for gratitude or a little visualizing for the day or, prayer of abundance, so it's like, there's other things I think we can do. And all of it has to do with optimizing the water, how that water is structured, how that water provides charge and energy, how that water informs, this is the mind-blowing one too, that the thoughts and our words and who we surround ourselves with actually change gene expression.
Oh, heavens.
Right. And so we right. So it's like, do I want to optimize my DNA for a thriving body, a healthy body, a body that's, engaged and I enjoy my life, I enjoy my day? Or do I want my DNA to be expressed in a way that is expressing stress, disease? It's just a difference. And so this is why I said earlier, like, water has completely changed my viewpoint on everything because of these little nuggets like this.
I think, I love the fact that when you said when you pay attention to it, because like you're saying the intentionality along with it, like you're paying attention to it and actually changes the structure of it and actually makes a physiological change. So I'm really impressed because I do want to go down the trail eventually. I know time is of the essence whenever we do these, and guys, we could talk for a long time because I want to talk even more about the gut biome and about that kind of environment in relation to like quantum biology. And also too, I love your information. If you guys look at her feed, it's amazing. It talks about the quickness, if that's the word, and the instantaneous effect of like thoughts on the cells because of the way light travels and the way that light will go through spectrums and through your tissue. So one thing though, I mean, before like we head out and such, I'm just, again, thank you so much for coming and talking with me about this. This is so good because when we talk about water and light, we talk about the structure in there. How important, and this is like, I'm trying to give everybody good tips, like in the day. And people say get exercise, and I understand that's what we ought to do is get exercise. But one last thing, does light travel through your fascia and your connective tissue and your joints like it? Is there a healing mechanism that light has to go through, like your fascia or connective tissue? Because I want people out there like, you need to, exercise and move. But I know there's got to be research on that, right?
Yeah. This again, well, you could do a whole episode on this. So when when the infrared light penetrates us to build that easy water to charge us up, that doesn't have to travel through the connective tissue. However, our connective tissue, our fascia, essentially our collagen, the way it winds itself up, it creates, when you have 7 collagen bundles kind of wound together, which is what they do. It's like a braid on a braid, kind of all twisted together. They form what are called water nanotubes. And this is literally just tubes of just water, not with any membrane around it, just water nanotubes. And these interconnected water nanotubes are thought to travel faster, have light and information travel through it faster than the speed of light. It's thought to be the basis of the Chinese meridian system.
What?
And so we can maintain the integrity of our fascia through movement. That fascia generates electricity for us. So that's negative charge. As we move, we're charging up our water is essentially holding that charge. So again, it's called piezoelectricity. So anytime we move, I think it's why I'm a big talker with my hands. Anytime we move, we're generating this electric charge, and that again will charge the water up. And then modalities like maybe that you're familiar with, but things where you tend to scars or where there's areas where it feels like there's a blockage in flow, what I think you're doing is reestablishing those water nanotubes, allowing for that energy and information to get conveyed in an efficient way again.
Oh man, I'm just so thankful because guys, this shows that proper light, proper addressing and noticing light, water intake, but also intentionality and movement have huge effects on your overall health. And I think if anybody out there, if you guys have learned anything from this, I would say knowing how the light at certain times of day affects your organs and how it affects the energy production in certain organs. And I'll ask my producer, Christy, to also throw in, and you probably already have this though, Carrie, but like a little chart that will show the time of day and the organ that Chinese medicine correlates it with in a particular time of day, so that you make sure that you're giving each organ its proper energy feed. So I think we can, have another part of this. I'm trying to talk with my producer. In my head, I already have these thoughts, Carrie, about like, well, next time we're going to talk about this and such, and we will. But I know people out there, it's a lot of good info. So I want to make sure we're doing good steps. So, guys, follow Carrie. Carrie, tell us where to follow you. What is your Instagram feed, your YouTube? Tell us where we can find you.
Sure. So on Instagram and on YouTube, I'm Carrie B Wellness. And then my website is carriebwellness.com. I have courses for both people looking to support their own self-healing as well as practitioners who are really looking to learn this information through potentially a little bit bigger of a deep dive to implement it in their clinical practice.
Oh, man. Yes. Everybody check it out. And I say that on her posts, she has these really great diagrams, and I'm one of those learners that has to look at a picture. If you give me something in a picture, I usually remember it, and that's how I learn. And that's why I just literally flip through those, and I'm like, oh, now I get it. I see the picture. So learning about the intricacies of your body and how detailed it is, but also you show that you can do simple steps to affect a very intricate system. So if you guys want to be amazed and wowed more, I really mean it about quantum biology and light and water, visit her feed, visit her posts. And we'll have a few more parts if that's okay, Carrie, because I want to do this. I want to talk again about biome, and then I want to really go and dive into more fertility and just a few things. Okay. So I know you're busy. I know you're slammed too. So whenever we can in the future. So everybody out there, if you guys loved this information, like it, subscribe, and send this information to people. She has so much good information that you could pull off her website and through her information, and hit the little bell. That's right, the little bell that tells people that the new podcast is out. And so, from all of us here, though, we want to say thank you so much for joining us today. And also, guys, we have information at times where we'll take the podcast and we have people in the membership. I have a membership where people watch it, and then we go into detail at times where we'll deep dive into it even more. So if you guys ever want a live Q&A, you can check me out on the membership, because we talk all things nerd. That's what we do. So, but Carrie, I hope that, we talk soon again. I know, again, we're slammed, but it'll happen. So everybody out there, till next time, we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, Carrie. Appreciate it.